Welcome, fellow ski and boarding enthusiasts, to Fresh Corduroy, the podcast that takes you on a thrilling journey through the mountains, exploring the passion and excitement that skiing and boarding brings to people's lives. I'm your host, Craig Zolan, and I'm thrilled to be your guide. This week's episode is with Bobby Aldighieri, an Olympic mogul skier and coach. Bobby shares with us how he got hooked on skiing and moguls in particular, educates us on mogul competitions, scoring, and provides the key to good mogul skiing. We also discuss real estate in Steamboat Springs and what are his favorite steamboat restaurants. Now let's go get some fresh corduroy with Bobby Aldighieri. Today's episode of Fresh Corduroy is with Bobby Aldighieri. Bobby, thank you very much for joining me today.
Here.
Thanks. A quick bio on you. Bobby was a member of the U.S. ski team from 85 to 92, attended the 92 Olympics in Albertville, and then he coached Team Canada. I don't know say if we switched teams there, but for Team Canada, and coached Team Canada at the '02 Olympics in Salt Lake and also '06 Olympics in Torino. You then became the director of freestyle skiing at Steamboat Springs Winter Sports Club for many years, and then more recently, for the last 4+ years, is a real estate agent in Steamboat Springs, Colorado. Bobby, welcome to the pod.
Thanks, Craig.
So first, question: what is the Bobby Aldighieri origin story? How'd you get started skiing?
Well, I was born in New Jersey, and so we did frequent trips up to Stratton, but didn't have a place there. And that was when I was in grade school, so I'd say like second, third, fourth, fifth grade.
Yeah.
And I would go with my dad in his Mustang, and my brother would come often, and we would go up to Stratton and go skiing. And I have really fond memories of that. And I had really antiquated equipment at that time. And, but just that was, we discussed this a little bit before we actually started the podcast. But that I would say I had a little bit of the bug then. I would say I probably didn't daydream about it, but I remember one spring day specifically, and my skis were slow, and my dad had head standards, and he was way faster than me. And I was so mad, I made him, because I was so slow, I'm like pushing down the hill trying to stay with my dad. I made him buy me wax that night, and I'm rubbing on that silver, Clister, or silver, that's just silver basic wax. And so, yeah, that's really the beginning of it all. And then sort of that we moved to the West as a family for just a few years, and had a place up in Purgatory, Colorado, Southern Colorado. And that's when I got really hooked, I would say, on the sport, and sort of more specifically mogul skiing.
And was that Purgatory between New Jersey? Because I know you from Connecticut. At some point in your life, you resided practically around the corner from me.
Right.
We can talk about the little Stratfield neighborhood and the pharmacy that was at the corner that I would go get baseball cards at. So was that in between New Jersey and Connecticut?
Yeah. That was after. So it was New Jersey, and then the West, and then Connecticut.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I can understand being bitten hard by Colorado and Purgatory, and then coming back. So did you know then? I guess call it middle school-ish time frame, or high school. I know you attended, I believe, KMS, right? So by that point, I think you must have made a decision that skiing and mogul skiing in particular was a calling of yours.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I was pretty committed at that point. Early on, I just loved to do it. I just thought it was the coolest thing in the world. And then there was nothing else really that was interesting to me. Partying in high school wasn't interesting. Yeah. I was driven pretty early on by the dream of skiing on World Cup and being, one of the best in the world, and doing it doing it differently than everybody else and just trying to surpass, anyone that I could to get to be the best in the world.
What was it about freestyle and moguls in particular that sort of drew you as opposed to sort of the other thing, whether it be, alpine ski racing or just those are the two primary things at the time. But like, how did you go that direction versus ski racing? What was there something
Had a
about
little
it?
bit of influence. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a good question. I had a little bit of influence when I was out west. I went to this camp. My friend asked me to go to this camp called the Great Western Freestyle Center, and it was in Steamboat. So this was 7th and 8th grade, and then I continued to go. I went the 7th, 8th, 9th, even when I was back in Connecticut, 7th, 8th, 9th, and maybe 10th grade until I was going to Killington Mountain School. And so there, Park Smalley, who was the owner of that camp, he and his brother John were big influences in my life, just because I looked up to those guys and just wanted to do what they were doing. That was a big part of it, though. I did ski race a little bit in high school. And then when I was at Killington Mountain School, I always appreciated the really the technical end of sport in general and the nuances of sport. So I've always been a big fan of ski racing and followed it quite closely. So yeah, I think it's but yeah, just that influence from, I would say, from here and Steamboat.
Yeah. You mentioned you've always been interested in sort of the nuance of sport, or I guess the intricacies and complexity of sport, right? It's not just the performance, if you will. It's about the learning and progression that one has to go through. I imagine that played into your coaching career as well, being a student of sport and student of the game, so to speak, is quite important. I mean, I assume that interest led you to coaching.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think there's always, I literally saw this clip from Bobby Knight last night. And I think the number one thing to drive you as a coach to be a successful coach is to want to win. And if you really, really want to win, then you're going to find different ways and creative ways to do that. And as an athlete, I wanted to win. And as a coach, I certainly wanted to win. And I always felt like if I wasn't there and doing it at the highest levels as an athlete, then I was doing my parents and my supporters a disservice. And as a coach, if I wasn't doing it to the best of my ability, I was doing my athletes and maybe their parents and their supporters a disservice. So that's really what's always driven me. But yeah, the nuance is that's where the rubber hits the road. It's pretty easy to cover the basics as an athlete, as a regional athlete, a really good national athlete, or a World Cup athlete. It's pretty easy to be pretty good, but it's the devil's in the details, and that's really when the rubber hits the road. And I would say I learned the most. I wouldn't say, 100%. I learned the most about the nuances of, there's so many things that go into it, but just for instance, how to periodize a quadrennial. So between one Olympics and the next Olympics, if you've got a group of athletes, how are you going to periodize their training to maximize, what do they have to do? What do we have to do as a coaching staff to get these girls and these guys to their best performances at that Olympics or at the World Cup seasons throughout that period, throughout that 4-year period, throughout that quadrennial. So I could go on and on about that, but that's maybe for another podcast.
Yeah, that gets into some granularity. I don't know that there are many folks that are worried about the quadrennial period and talking about Olympics. I think most coaches are thinking about a season-long progression and plan. That's probably more apropos of, who may be listening. But, I think, look, coming from a ski racing background, there's a lot of questions that I have as it relates to mogul skiing and freestyle, everything from, the basics, like what is it scored on, right? It's, one of the things that attracts me to ski racing is it's the clock, right? It's very simple. It's fastest time wins.
Like that.
There's no subjectivity to it. And I think there is, correct me if I'm wrong, some subjectivity to mogul skiing. So tell me in the audience, the listeners, what are the different attributes that mogul skiers are judged on or graded on, and ultimately count towards their score and whether they win or lose?
Maximum score is 100. It's broken down to 60% turns in line, which is judged. That's the judging. Well, there's 2 points of judging, but that's the turns in line are the lion's share of the 100%, if you will. So 60% is turns in line, how direct your turns are, how much you're absorbing, how much you're angulating the path of the ski, how much you're bending the ski, how aggressive you are in your skiing. 20% are your 2 jumps. So you've got 2 jumps on the course, the top jump and the bottom jump. And that's calculated in, there's degree of difficulty. So if I do back double full, that's a high degree of difficulty jump at the top of the course. If you do back full, that's less degree of difficulty. And then you take the score that the judges score you on your form and calculate that and there's a software for this.
Yep.
That just does the calculation when the judges have, they have keypads and they punch in their score. And then it's also double checked and triple checked, goes into the computer and then spits out that score. And then there's just the time element. So if I ski down in 25 seconds and you ski down in 23 seconds, obviously you're going to have more speed points than I will. So, so it's 60% turns in line, 20% jumps and 20%.
Interesting. And the equipment, I know there's special mogul skis, and again, in ski racing, I can tell you about length and radius that's in, minimum length and radius requirements for each discipline. Is there such a thing in mogul skiing, or what is the typical, highly, World Cup mogul skier skiing on? Because I don't think the average recreational skier is not out there skiing on them, generally speaking.
No, for sure. Mogul skis are really specialized. I don't know if they're any less specialized than your average person being out in a pair of Fisk GS skis or slalom skis for that factor. Certainly Super G skis or downhill skis, but they are really specialized and they're really, really narrow underfoot. And it's just a very specialized ski. I still have mogul skis. I don't really ski on them much, if at all. I've got other skis that'll do the job.
But what are the qualities? Are they stiff? Are they soft? Are they,
They make all different. It's just like in Alpine, they make ones that are softer. They make softer in the shovel and stiffer in the tail. And, it just depends on what the athlete wants.
I say personal preference.
Yeah. They make solid edge ones, cracked edge ones. Yeah. Yeah.
Cracked edge. I haven't seen a cracked edge ski in a very, very long time. But I do remember them. That's interesting. But for the average person, what would you recommend someone ski on? Obviously, it's whatever they have on their feet at the given time. But if someone loved the moguls and wanted to, say get better and enjoy it more, perhaps, is there a particular type of ski that you recommend for them?
Well, I'm a Salomon guy, so I'm just going to go with Salomon.
Sure.
Yes. Salomon makes, they make that stance that I've got a pair of Stance 86s, and I was skiing on them yesterday with one of my old teammates from the U.S. team. He was in town, Chuck Martin, and we were skiing all over the hill, but we skied quite a bit of moguls, and that Stance 86 is like really, really good. I haven't really skied moguls on anything that I found particularly great. Compared to like a proper mogul ski, but that Stance was great, and it was soft. It was snowing yesterday, but that's a good one for sure. But you want to have something that's pretty narrow underfoot. But that ski, a ski like that, whether it's Salomon or one of the other manufacturers, works pretty well around the hill too, just generally speaking, other than maybe like a deep powder day or something. But that ski carves particularly well. But it's good mogul ski.
I'm surprised that you picked something that as wide as an 86. The mogul skis, the competitive mogul skis are much narrower underfoot. And that's kind of what I think of. I would take a pair of, slalom skis into moguls and think that might do well. Not that, and I, being an East Coast skier, I do have a pair of Fisk slalom skis that I do rip around on occasion. Enjoy that. It was one of the skis in my quiver. but I was a little surprised that a ski as wide as what you just described. But it makes sense. It was soft and
Yeah, yeah, I've got fists. I've got a pair of Solomon just gave me a pair of fist slalom skis, and they're awesome. But I won't take them in the I won't take them in the moguls because I'm too particular about them, and I don't want to bend them. They have plates on them. I'm not. I
yeah,
don't want to wear them out in any respect. And I think they're too hooky, and plus they're, 3.5 degrees side bevel, and so
yeah,
it's just not a great. Something like that's really not unless they were really worn out and slightly dull. I don't think it's a
fair enough.
great tool for it. Just saying, but
No,
yeah.
no, fair enough. I just spent a lot of time out in the Canadian Rockies, and I only had a couple pairs of skis, so I was skiing 88s, and they did fine. Managed to get through and survive, albeit the aged body tends to perhaps need a break from moguls on occasion. I don't know. Is there a key to not killing one's back or knees in the moguls?
Yeah, I do a bunch of videos. I don't know if you've seen them, but with Deb Armstrong.
Yes, I have.
Yeah, so just go on her YouTube channel, and that'll answer your questions. But
Okay.
Deb's a good friend, and of course that she won the gold medal in giant slalom in '84 in Sarajevo. But she's a good friend, and we really share the passion of skiing. And but it's all about you have to absorb. You have to absorb. It's like you don't want to ride your mountain bike without shock absorbers. You don't want to be out four-wheeling without shock absorbers in your truck. Same thing. You have to absorb, and it makes your life a lot easier. So,
Yeah.
and it's uncomfortable. That absorption move is uncomfortable. And that's maybe another conversation, or maybe later in the podcast, Craig, but about that retraction move to keep your feet underneath. It's same in GS and in slalom particularly, but been having that conversation with a lot of friends that are directly involved in the alpine world right now. But
Yeah, no. I think it's interesting that you touched on the videos with Deb. For those that don't know, obviously Deb Armstrong was an alpine ski racer, as Bobby just mentioned, was a gold medalist in GS. But the similarities between what makes a good mogul skier and what makes a good alpine ski racer are very same, right? There's upper and lower body separation. There's a lot of fundamentals that are one and the same. It's not like it's two different sports.
right.
So I imagine there's a lot of cross pollination between you and, say, the alpine side of when you were at Steamboat Springs Winter Sports Club. Did you share notes and talk about how perhaps freestyle skiers should get in a course every once in a while, and alpine ski racers should get in a mogul run or a park or something every once in a while to sort of cross pollinate, if you will?
Absolutely. Yeah. We talk about it all the time. We spoke about it a lot. I've got a good friend who's the head coach here for Alpine, and Ben Brown, and he's a particularly good coach. And we discuss it all the time. And I've been out with his group, taking them out mogul skiing, and try to explain to them that how important that retraction move is. And yeah, so there's if you're open to that sort of thing, is on either end, which to me you'd be foolish not to be. There's a lot to be learned, and a lot of just organic, important movement.
Yeah. You said open to it. I think there's always a culture, a cultural divide, let's call it that, between the different disciplines, right? Whether it's ski racing and moguls. I don't know if the park and pipe folks have a different culture than moguls. Like, I was asking somebody recently about the ski instructors versus ski patrollers. Like, do the communities interact at the bar after work, right?
I would hope so. I would really hope so. But
I
I don't
think
know.
the answer was no, which surprised me a little bit, because they're both, in a resort town for the entire season. You'd think they'd get to know one another. You said if they're open to it. Have you encountered reluctance or resistance to that cross-pollination in the past?
I think it depends what level you are. I think at the lower levels, people are more wannabes, and so they feel really strong about their culture, and they feel like It's that but at the higher levels, it's not that way at all. If you're on World Cup or if you're an Olympian, you end up, there's just less of that because it's less of a wannabe kind of attitude. It's I'm here, I've arrived. I don't have those insecurities potentially. I'm always someone that's at the lower level, but that's what gets you to be able to not have those sort of insecurities and to be really open-minded that's the difference between usually good people and great people in any venue. It doesn't have to be sports. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm surprised. I mean, at mogul skiing, you described, the different components of it, jumping as being, 20% of the score. You talk about air awareness and, body positioning and sort of having all those skills, which obviously is a huge component of the competition. Having air awareness and understanding body position in alpine skiing for whether it's downhill or super G when you're going off jump, like, why not? Like, one would think that if you could teach that faster, it would be better. There was I've been seeing a clip of, some World Cup ski racer, who must have missed a gate in a super G or something, pull a heli off of a knoll, as he's skiing down, like having those skills.
That was Bodie Miller.
Well, Bodie's, yes.
Did it, and Tomba did it as well.
Yeah.
They both did it. Yeah.
Yeah. Something recently, some Swiss skier recently did it, but yes. So there are these skiers who can do tricks, if you will. Paula Molzan, U.S. ski teamer, the current U.S. ski teamer, has pulled off some remarkable saves, which would otherwise lead to, horrific crashes, because she's just, physically adept at pulling, things off. So one would question why there's that reluctance to cross-pollinate. It's interesting. You talk about coaching and the reluctance there. You've since, well, correct me if I'm wrong, you left coaching, at least as it relates to mogul skiing, and you're now a real estate agent. Is that right? You're not coaching any longer with Steamboat.
I'm not coaching directly with Steamboat anymore. I consult. I have a consulting business with a number of different athletes, and so that kind of continues on. That scratches that itch, and there's a need for it. That wasn't really my idea to start that business. I just had people come and want to need help in certain areas, both skiing and acrobatically, and then on the sports psychology side as well. So I do that. Real estate is what I do here in Steamboat Springs. I've lived here 30 years and have bought and sold a lot of property personally throughout these years. This valley's just been really good to me in so many ways. But, So I was in Steamboat a year ago, last season, and the last time prior to that was roughly 30 years ago. So it's changed dramatically. Curious, you're a local at this point. What is it like living in a resort town with, the ski area out your back door? For folks like myself who live and work in big cities, that's sort of the dream. So one goes there on vacation and says how idyllic that looks, and is it as idyllic as it appears to the people who are visiting, or are there some other things underneath the covers that we're not seeing? That's a good question. I'm originally from the East Coast. Obviously, went to Killington Mountain School, etc. It's pretty idyllic. It's it's a really, really nice place to live on the day-to-day. I think the values here are different. The community is, I think in Steamboat, I've spent a lot of time all around the world and different, I speak more from just in the United States or North America. And my wife and I lived in Whistler for 4 years when I was with the Canadian Sport Institute. But I think that this town is really special, and the values, it's not about how big your house is, not about what you're driving. It's about the sharing of community and taking care of each other. That's special. That's special. That's not lost on me after 30 years. I mean, as I speak, our house is unlocked. The keys are in my truck right now. We just don't ever lock our house, like never. I've got a listing downtown. This house is it's $2,980,000. The owners were adamant not to have a lockbox. They were adamant, like they just didn't want to have one. They were just like, the house is open. Yeah, it's crazy. So I think that our houses aren't locked and the keys are on our vehicles speak a lot about our town and what's important. So, yeah.
So how do you deal with there's a blessing and a curse with the folks like myself who come and visit for a week. That it's important to the local economy. It, provides obviously jobs and money to the various businesses. But I imagine culturally, it's a little bit different. There's a different attitude, a quick, hurry up type base. Like, is there I don't know what's the word I'm looking for, but is there a dislike for the influx of tourists, or you understand that's a necessary evil, so to speak?
Yeah, I think that it's funny. I was on our chamber website last week, and it speaks to just being nice in town. I don't know. I haven't been on the Aspen Chamber of Commerce side or the Vail Chamber side of the Telluride Chamber site, but I thought that was really a nice message. And I think that when people come here, this valley is we're a little more removed. It's a little harder to get here, right? It's not on the I-70 corridor. You don't just drive up 70 and you're in Vail, you're in Breckenridge, or you're in Copper or Keystone. So I think that people sort of, when they come, largely speaking, sort of respect the valley and what it stands for. So I just don't think that we find tourists to be a nuisance. Just generally, there's times for sure. There's times, but I just don't feel that way. I think that people come and respect it and understand it. And I don't think they'd come all the way here if they didn't have that feeling. I think they'd be more like, we need to rush there to get there, to go skiing, and about us and us and us. I just think that you're driving 70, then you go on 9 and then to Highway 40. And by the time you get here, maybe you're just a little more relaxed, and just here to enjoy. So yeah, I don't think it's a necessary evil. I think that it's for sure necessary, but I wouldn't say it's an evil.
That's good. And what is the different seasons there? I imagine winter is a peak season with a lot of folks coming to ski at Steamboat, but I imagine spring, summer, fall have their attributes as well, the positive attributes that everyone. So does it slow down? Is it a different vibe during the other seasons? What is it like? What is Steamboat like the rest of the year?
Because it's become, more and more desirable and popular, the shoulder seasons have gotten shorter and shorter. I'd say we have maybe 3 weeks in the spring. Like when the mountain closes, it definitely quiets down, which is really, really nice for us. Maybe 3 weeks, maybe a month. But then you're like road riding, before mountain biking opens. And then, and in the fall, maybe a couple of weeks, like, maybe post Halloween. And then, when it starts to get maybe a bit rainy, or it's that mixed precip kind of time of year into November before the mountain opens. But, and then the summers are busy, we attract a lot of, road. We have a gravel race. We have this international gravel race. And then we have, a mountain bike race it's called the Emerald Mountain Epic. My wife and I do it every year. And it's 50 mile, a little over 50 mile mountain bike race. It's right in our backyard, literally. Yeah. So it's popular here in the summer, and really, because skiing is so specialized, you can actually, more people will come. Like your grandparents will probably come in the summer, but they probably won't come in the winter,
Yeah. So it sounds like it's a
it's
very active community. You talk about, mountain biking and gravel riding and road biking. I'm sure I'm trying to think of the rivers nearby, but, whether it's fly fishing or, kayaking or, some other,
all of that.
Various water sports.
The Yampa River runs right through the middle of town. So,
right.
Yeah, so it's full on. Yeah, we do have a kayak fest, and then a lot of fly fishing as well. I don't fly fish, but it's obviously super, super popular. Yeah.
All right. So you've sold me. Now I want to move, right? So the real estate, I imagine, market has changed dramatically in the 30 years from when I first visited, when I was living in Boulder at the time, and to now. I imagine in town is quite expensive, and I imagine there's outskirts. I imagine there's creep, right? The town is sort of expanding. Is that fair? Is that what's going on in Steamboat?
Yep, it's completely fair. Yeah, you're spot on.
So what do you tell whether they're looking for a second home or people who want to transplant, they should expect, or, what is the typical, and I know I'm married to a real estate agent, so I know there is
Oh,
no
yeah, there you go.
typical, but how do you address that with your clients?
Yeah, I think it depends, it's all budget dependent. And, we have stuff here that, condominiums that are around $625 to $650 a foot, up to stuff that's $3,000 a foot. So, it just depends what you want and where you want to be, and what your budget is. Single family homes, there's there's one single family home in town, like not downtown, but just outside of downtown, that's just under $1 million, but it's pretty rough. But anything in town, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, approximately 1,800 square feet, you're looking at, approximately 1.5. Not approximately, that's pretty spot on.
Yeah.
You're looking at kind of mid to upper 800 a foot.
And that's downtown as opposed to up close to the resort, as you
Yeah,
just.
single family,
Yeah.
give or take, at the resort is about the same. But of course, you can buy condos.
Right.
They're definitely less expensive. They tend to be less expensive depending on the condo.
Right.
Depending on the condo, where if it's slope side, which would be like being on the beach. So it just depends. But
Yeah.
there's semi. It's all relative, right? They're semi-affordable. I don't think it's like, I can't imagine the average price per square foot is that much different in New York City or Connecticut or New Jersey. I can't, I suspect it's somewhat similar.
Yeah. Again, depends on neighborhood and location, and all the attributes that you've just described, the building, whether, the condo, some are more expensive than others.
Yeah.
The neighborhoods obviously dictate, how close is it to public transportation, there are a variety of things.
Exactly.
Yeah. One of the things, of course, imagine a lot of visitors, they rent a Airbnb or VRBO or something like that for a long weekend or a week, and they're like, should I invest in one of these things?
Yes.
So that I can use it the one week that I come out, and then, is there an opportunity, or did you need to get into it 10 years ago in order to make it viable?
Well, it was certainly easier 10 years ago. I mean, the post, pandemic craziness was full on, and we saw values, more than double, right? Yes. So, it's definitely, that's far outpaced, the wages, right? So, yeah. So 10 years ago would have been a better call, but I just literally had this conversation before getting on with you with a former teammate of mine. But it's not getting any cheaper here. It just hasn't in 30 years. It just hasn't. We've had moments with, post 08, 09, 10, 11, we saw a decrease, but big picture, you just don't, because this is a really nice place to live, and it's low crime, and my wife and I have a 7-year-old Enzo, and we love raising Enzo in this environment, and that's not lost on us or him or his grandparents. Yeah. So, if you're going to wait another 10 years for the market to go down, I don't have a crystal ball, but my 30 years, I haven't seen that
it doesn't
really
work.
happening, Yeah.
I planted apple trees a couple of years ago. There's a saying about planting fruit trees, which is the best time to plant fruit trees was 5 years ago. Right. So I'm still waiting for it to bear some fruit, but I think that's real estate as well. The best time to buy real estate was 5 or 10 years ago.
Right. It's like when you go surfing, you should have been here last week. You should have been here. Just go do it if you want to do it. And I think it's interesting because, speaking of surfing, we go down to Mexico, we surf sort of as much as we can, wherever we can. And you're going down to Sayulita, Mexico, which is a quick trip for us, I think that if you want to buy something, that it's about like wanting to assimilate in the environment, like to go to the free concert series in the summer and meet people and be part of the community. And I think that's, to me, we attract a different group of people here that they want to be part of that community. That, when they come here, like, love these people. They're really friendly. Like we were discussing earlier about the more tourist friendly, and they want to assimilate and they want to be part of it, and they feel that. So we kind of felt that way about Mexico, and just to be able to just assimilate within the community more, So,
Right.
yeah.
So you're looking at places in Salulita, you mentioned?
You're darn right we are.
Not a bad place. What about, there's a lot of talk about resort communities and frankly, the housing challenges that they have. Is there such a thing in Steamboat? I mean, obviously resort work is somewhat seasonal. Folks need to find a place to live during the in-season time, but you did mention it's somewhat of a year-round community, but what are the housing issues in Steamboat, just like anywhere else where there's low inventory and challenges about buying, of units?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Yep. That's an issue here. The Yampa Valley Housing Authority is constantly working on that, and they've made some headway for sure. There's a lot of demand, but they've made a lot of headway in that, and are finding, buildings to purchase and to house people, but also there's some stuff that's coming up that's more and more affordable because of the Yampa Valley Housing Authority. So I think that's getting better, but it's still a challenge. We have outlying towns. We have Hayden and we have Oak Creek, North Route County and South Route County. So there's, near Stagecoach Reservoir. And so there's stuff out there that's certainly less expensive. And as a result, you've got to drive into town 20 minutes or so. So it's a little bit of a thing.
Right.
But that's just, it's just gotten more and more expensive. When I first moved here, it was, I was a part-time, I was like, 8-month or 9-month a year ski coach. And I was able to make that happen. I bought the smallest place I could and parlayed that. And I'd actually kind of made money on the pro tour and bought something and sold it and bought something and kept it and, kind of parlayed it. But it was a lot easier then, for sure. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah. No, interesting that you've been in the real estate game longer than your professional career. Obviously, you've been investing or trading homes for some time. I think very fortuitous of you. And yeah, the opportunities there, I guess, are similar to every other ski resort area. I'm curious, now that your sort of your day job is real estate. How often do you get out to ski? Is it, again, we talk about the call it the tourist here. You get to go ski in the morning and then sit at your desk the rest of the day, or is it a little bit more infrequent than that?
No, yeah, I ski. This guy I used to coach with, we ski quite often. I ski on the weekends for sure with my wife, who is an NCAA Nordic skier, and her mom was on the national ski team, and her uncle was on the national ski team. So my wife rips it pretty well. I'm lucky, and we enjoy skiing together on the weekends. But also, during the week, I ski usually twice a week, 2, maybe sometimes 3 days, but usually 2. Tuesdays, usually Tuesday, Thursday, or Tuesday, Friday, never Mondays. But yeah, so I get out for sure.
You ever make any deals? Yeah, I said, you ever make any deals either in the gondola or pick up new clients by riding up the chairlift?
I'd like to think the ski hill is my golf course. So I'm not a golfer, so that's my golf course, and I do a number of things with the Steamboat Ski and Resort Corporation as well as one of their Olympians. It just works out great, and I'm lucky to have that relationship as well with them. And always.
So that's interesting. I've talked about that with others. That why isn't skiing more like golf in the sense that people will bring business colleagues there and they'll be able to socialize and talk about deals or transactions or what have you. It's not so you're using it as your golf course. Is that correct? You actually do business on the hill?
Yeah, I actually skied with a client of mine on Friday. Yeah, skied with him for a number of runs. It was really good. Actually, a guy that I sold a piece of property to out in the Stagecoach area. So really nice guy, and it was really fun. So it's a great way to share your joy,
Yeah. Why isn't there more of that? Yeah, it's a good question, right? I've done it with folks from, other businesses in New York City in the wintertime. We made a day of going up to, Wyndham, I think, or Hunter, and skiing for the day. And we obviously talk shop and just as if we had gone to the golf course and played around. So, and it struck us why skiing isn't used in the same way. It's a similar clientele. It's a similar, you know, number of hours. There's a time when you're striking your ball, and then there's times when you're sitting in the cart together. There's times when you're skiing down the hill, and there's times when you are riding the lift together. We need to start a petition, if you will, to get more people doing that. Are there other folks in Steamboat who are, doing business on the hill?
I think so. I would think so. It's a little bit like my competitive career where I don't really look outside of what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I don't look so much at my competition. I ask a lot of questions, but I kind of stick to my process as much as possible.
Yeah.
But I mean, some of them have to. It's right there. I'm looking from my office. I'm looking at a mountain. It's less than a mile from my office, so I would think they do. I don't really know.
Yeah. Well, that'll be the topic for another podcast episode. One other thing that I wanted to cover is you talked about community, and you were part of the Steamboat Springs, Winter Sports Club, which from an outsider looking in seems like a terrific community. It's geared towards fostering the love of the outdoors and winter sport. Let's talk about that because, again, from an outsider's perspective, you've developed a lot of terrific athletes across the spectrum of different sports, whether it be Nordic, freestyle, alpine racing. I don't know if you have ski jumps or not. I don't remember if there's. Yeah. And I've been part of communities like that here in the East, where they have, the Nordic trails that lap around, there's ski jumps, and there's, obviously the slopes with different programs. How big and, tell me a bit more about the Winter Sports Club.
Yeah, happy to do that because it's something we're really proud of. We're big contributors as a family to the Winter Sports Club. I've worked with the Winter Sports Club for Steamboat Springs Winter Sports Club for 2 different stints, actually. But yeah, we produce more Olympians out of Steamboat than any other town in North America. So at the highest levels, but also now as having a 7-year-old, we really understand the community benefit in fostering the love of winter sport. It's quite special, and they have groups. Our son Enzo was in Little Toots at 4 and 5-year-old. As a 4 and 5-year-old, now he's in U8. They have a U6 program, a U8 program, U10, et cetera, goes up. And then at U13, U12, then you decide if you're going to go, towards sort of alpine racing or mogul skiing or free ski or snowboard or whatever. Yeah, it's a very special organization. We have over 1,000 skiers in that program. And we do a lot for the community as well. We have, we host public school ski days where kids, kindergarten through 5th come, middle school and high school. And then one of the coolest things at the Winter Sports Club, this is not a Winter Sports Club activity, but it's down at Howelson Hill. So we have the big mountain, Steamboat, and then we have the small ski area, Howelson Hill, which is really famous. It's over 100 years old. It's quite steep. We host a FIS race actually there, and we had a Rocky Mountain Division Mogul event there this winter as well. But at Howelson Hill, every Sunday we have free ski Sundays, and it's a community event. I don't know that it's possible that other mountains do this around the nation, around the world, but I don't know of any. I'm not saying that's not a fact, but they give away skiing. You just go up, get a ticket. You don't have to be local. You could be from out of town. And then they give you a ticket for a beer to go down to the brewery, down to Mountain Tap, and get a free beer. So who gives you free beer to go skiing in the nation? I don't know of anyone. And maybe you have.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Where my son attended high school, they had the facilities similar to Howelson Hill, host FIS races, have ski jumping, have Nordic trails, so, and it's, it's owned by the school, and they open it up to the local community, and they have, they invite the local community in. So it is a magnet for the local area, but they don't offer beer. I think you definitely one-upped the Proctor community.
Where does your son go to high
Yes.
school? I'm curious.
Well, he went to Proctor Academy, which is in New Hampshire. So it has a FIS program at the school, and they obviously host FIS races and FIS uni races. So university host some carnivals there, and yeah, it's a terrific little program. Little hill, but it's a great community. Talking about beer and downtown, one of the things that struck me when I was visiting was the restaurant scene, and the town was terrific. Like, what are your favorite places to go eat in town?
Yeah, big. Yeah. Well, up on the mountain, there's the T-Bar, which won't be there forever because it's on a really, really, really valuable piece of land. It's like right slopeside, and it used to be a ski patrol hut. And the owner, my wife went to high school with the owner, and he graduated from the CIA, the Culinary Institute of America. Yep. And it's really legit food, really, really good. And it's a great local spot. So the T-Bar is great. On the mountain, there's two other restaurants on the mountain that are really good as well. Los Locos, I was there yesterday, and also Paramount. And then downtown. Yeah, I love, I'm full-blooded Italian, but I love Italian food, but only at my house. I love Mexican food, and Salt and Lime is super, super good.
Yeah, we ate there. Yeah.
Did you eat there?
Yeah, that was good. The group owns there was another place next door, I think, right? Or down the street.
Yeah.
It's owned by them as well. Yeah.
Yeah, they own Laundry, which is, right downtown, which is a little more upscale than that. And then they own, Rex's. I don't know if he owns Rex's anymore, but anyway. Yeah, so there's a lot of good. And there's a bunch of stuff down in the Yampa as well. There's more dive kind of food, real local style. And Backdoor Grill is awesome. Really good burger, real local vibe. It's awesome. So
that's good to know. I mean, it's important. Should have tried T-Bar. We skied right by it every day.
What did you eat when you were here on the mountain?
On the mountain? Good question. I honestly don't remember. It was one of the guys. It was a guy's ski trip. One of the guys liked to pack peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. He's like, "There's no break." And then the rest of us were like, "No, we're going to be taking a break." So it wasn't anything fancy but afterwards we ate at Salt and Lime twice, not by design. We actually were in, when I was there was a snowstorm that rolled in on a Sunday, and so Sunday was fantastic. We thought we were going to we were supposed to depart on Monday, and we thought we were going to have canceled flights. In fact, one of the guys that was flying out on Sunday night, his flight was canceled, and so he came back from the airport and joined us at Salt and Lime because it was one of the few places that was open and could take us on a Sunday evening. And so that was the second time we ate there. We ate at the other, we didn't know at the time, but we figured it out that that other restaurant owned by the Salt and Lime folks, I guess it was Laundry, but the name doesn't stick in my head as much. And there was another bar kind of place that was further, I want to say south, but that I maybe have my direct further towards Halcyon Hill. Maybe so my directions from town. Again, it was good food. Enjoyed it, but T-Bar, I'll have to do that next time.
Yeah. How come we didn't end up skiing together when you were here last year? I was thinking about that.
You were probably busy selling someone a piece of real estate.
Maybe. I hope so. I hope so. But when you come out next time,
yeah, we're going to try again.
Make sure you look me up.
Absolutely.
Around a little bit.
Listen, is there anything that you wanted to highlight that I didn't touch upon before we wrap things up?
I think so. I appreciate the conversation, Craig. I think, just to talk about, my career and how, appreciate you letting me highlight that a little bit. I think my story is pretty inspirational. We did, before the last games, before the 2022 games, we did this, there's this art gallery bar, and it's no longer there, which is a bummer, downtown. And it had this really nice atmosphere, and I got to know the owner a little bit. And he said, "What do you think about doing a night? We host these different nights with, sometimes they're like search and rescue people and they speak. And he said, what do you think about doing like one with Olympians?" And I thought that's like a really good idea. So the timing was right. It was in maybe late January or just before the games in 2022. It's really, really nice setting and low light, really, really nice. And I was the first one to start, the first Olympian to start. There were 3 or 4 of us. Nelson Carmichael, one of my former teammates, spoke. And I started mine out. And I said, we have over, 100 Olympians in this town, and you're looking at the least talented of them all. So my talk somewhere between stand-up comedy and also really tear-jerking. But I'd like to think that to put my head down and really ground it out to become, a World Cup gold medalist and fifth in the world, and pretty open-minded and pretty passionate about it then, and still quite passionate about it today. So thanks for letting me share that, for sure.
My pleasure. Yeah, I think, look, one of the things that has struck me is that there's a community of skiers and boarders, right? And we all love being out in the mountain. There's something about that, the exhilaration of going, sliding down a hill with something strapped to your feet. And the community is actually relatively small. It's not 6 degrees of separation. It's just a couple, and certainly in ski racing, I know a lot of folks, but I think it extends beyond that. And this, one of the hopes is to prove that, you and I grew up or lived in the same town for a period. My son actually attended KMS in 7th and 8th grade for a month.
Oh, he did.
So there's a connection there as well. I'm sure we know some common folks, connected to KMS. So, I think it extends beyond just, say, within the alpine ski racing community. It extends to moguls and freestyle and free skiing. And, I want to explore that because we all have this, love of the mountains and winter sports. So I'm glad you could participate.
My pleasure. Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, thank you very much. Appreciate it. And I will ski with you the next time I'm out in Steamboat.
Yeah, get out here soon.
I will. All right. Thanks a lot, Bobby.
Thanks, Craig.
Hello, and thanks for listening to this week's episode of Fresh Corduroy. I hope you enjoyed listening to Bobby as much as I did speaking with him. I know where I'm going to eat the next time I'm in Steamboat Springs. I also know what I need to do in the moguls in order to ski them better. And I also know that I'm probably 5 to 10 years too late to invest in real estate in Steamboat Springs. If you liked what you heard, please like and subscribe to Fresh Corduroy wherever you listen to podcasts, whether it be Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Also, please spread the word and tell your friends about the podcast. And if you have any guest ideas, please don't hesitate to contact me via Instagram DM at Fresh Corduroy Podcast. Music is by Eric Zolan from his album Calder's Universe, which can be found on Spotify. Thanks.